I finally made absolute BANE. So stick along the video because this took me 3 weeks to make. Stick towards the end because I got a bonus final figure just for you. Let's get started. With this project, dude, I wanted to mix the old with the new. What is the old? Actually prepping the body, actually painting, hand sculpting, and combine it with the detail of 3D sculpting and printing, you know. And I have a really special printer today, sponsored by HEYGEAR. We'll talk about it when we get to it. So I took it upon myself for that challenge, you know, that challenge to really numb my fingers. What's a monster character that I would like to do and you guys would like to see? Absolute BANE. I didn't want to do his normal version. I wanted to do the exaggerated monster. When it came to concepting the ideas of the base I would use, I was thinking of the Great Hulk from Marvel Legends, and I even did a little bit of a drawing of that. I'll show you here, but it wasn't monstrous enough. And then within my options, I saw the Mr. Hyde figure. The sculpt is phenomenal. It's by Loose Collectors. Fun fact, they started off as customizers back in the day. The only issue is he's kind of short. Canonically in the comics, Absolute BANE is around 15 feet tall. You know, it will be around 13 inches. If I really want to go for something like that, I would just get the Marvel Legends Hulk icons, which is accurate, but the sculpt doesn't convince me because it's just a big Hulk. The one thing that I liked about the Hyde figure, it was the veins, through the exaggeration of the veins and how his head is protruding from his traps, you know. So that was a big factor for me, and it was very important to convey that monstrosity of the vein work, you know. But then I thought, can I just make him taller? Just a tiny bit. And as I was looking around my collection, I saw this. Now I didn't use this one because this one goes for around like 80 bucks on eBay, so hell no. But I had the Red Hulk, and the Red Hulk is exactly the same mold, but I noticed that the connection pieces or the ball joints are almost the same size. And after playing with it, you know, pulling and all that stuff, I came to the conclusion that maybe I couldn't do the leg swap, but I could do the diaphragm swap. The actual ball pegs, they're almost the same size, so you can swap one for another and they connect. It's kind of loose, but if you use a little bit of heat shrink, you heat it up, you pop it in, it's a perfect fit, dude. And that's what I use for the base body. Let me give you a quick list of all the stuff that I use. Majority of all the stuff that I use: epoxy sculpt, I use green stuff, I use this new paint from Kaleido Colorworks. They sent me out a couple of these. They're supposed to be enamel-like paints, so they're pretty. They helped out pretty much in the painting process. A lot of patience, dude, because you do not want to break these figures. Okay, so here I did a bit of prep work off screen. I removed the ripped part. We have this exposed. I'll probably be sculpting in like a boot or something. I started to sand off the parts where I'm gonna detail the ripped clothes, and I sanded off a bit of the inside of the diaphragm just so I know when I start playing with it, it doesn't rub off. And it's rubbing off ever so slightly when I start moving it around. Maybe I need to either sand down this, or the part, the inside, I can hollow it out just a little bit more so it doesn't really make contact like that, but it's not too much to be worried about. Damn, I like working with the bigger figures. I feel like it's a little bit more manageable. It's definitely a lot more force for you to move around, but in general, dude, I feel like it's more, you don't have to be as careful, you know what I mean? So smaller things, it's easier to break. These big boys, they can take a beating, dog. You know what? I'm also gonna have to take apart the legs just so I can hollow this part out. Yeah, let's keep going. Look at my eye, dude. We're gonna get rid of this detail right here with the ripped thing. Probably just go at it. Get another drill bit that's a bit more flat, and then we can start flattening this surface. Matter of fact, I think we can actually just go in with the X-Acto knife at this point. So here I'm just going over it because Dremel might leave like a rough texture. So what I'm doing with the 600 grit is I'm smoothing it out. Here I got the feet. I re-sculpt these by hand to make some boots. So now we're using epoxy sculpt, mix equal halves, A and B, and then we're going to cover the toes and we're going to cover the empty areas left by the jeans. I use this because I have a lot more product of epoxy sculpt, and when I mix it with water, it gives me a smoother surface than green stuff. Now when it comes to green stuff, I decided to use it so I can add detail to it, you know, the ripped parts of the jeans, just the muscles exploding through the actual clothes. Okay, here we have it already sculpted. Seemed like majority of the primer stayed on. I didn't do any gloss coatings or anything like that. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just prime it black. The reason why I primed it black is because I wanna see where the paint rub is gonna be, just so I can sand harder in those areas and just leave a little bit more clearance so the plastic isn't rubbing against each other, you know, and it's paint rub free. Right now it's just a waiting game. So here are the points, the main points of paint rub, once with the primer and the gloss finish. So now what I gotta do is I gotta come in here, sand this away or sand the inside, and then do the same for the rest, you know, and then prime it again and then repeat the process numerous times until it doesn't happen anymore. So I did the black primer from GAAHLERI, so shout out to them to send me an enamel like primer. After several layers to it, I gloss primed it with Super Mr. Clear gloss. I did a shit ton of layers, I did a shit ton of sanding, and we're here now. So you may see here that it looks even. We start moving around, you know, there's no paint rub around the diaphragm, which is good. But when it comes to the legs, actually in the bags it's still a bit of paint rub, never mind. Yeah, we still have paint rub here, a bit here. Here I got 600, 1000, 2000. So for sure, I'm not crashing out. I'm just letting you know how it's gonna be. But you know what? Things that haven't been done before take time. This Absolute BANE being one of them, okay? Absolute BANE, that's what we got so far. So far, so good. So now that we have kind of like a good understanding of what to do with the body, I just gotta keep on working on it. Let's do the head sculpt, because Absolute BANE head sculpt is nowhere to be found right now because he's a fairly new character. So I had to sculpt it myself. When it came to the design, dude, like it is with comics, it's ever changing, dog. So it's kind of like as you go with cover to cover to cover and panel to panel, the arch just tends to change ever so slightly. But here are the main features. The mask design tends to be pretty consistent. The way that his teeth are made is that he has no lips and it's from mask to teeth straight away, and he's kind of like showing off his full mouth. So at the same time, because there's not a lot of references or exact references that's supposed to be a certain way, it gives me a little bit of liberty on what to do with it, you know. So he has the regular base form expression that I made, and he also has the venomized out expression with a big old tube at the top of his head. I wasn't a big fan of the design, but I'll see how that looks once I have painted it and I have it assembled within the body that is all hold down. Okay, now that we have the okay, now that we have everything sculpted out, let's go ahead and send it over to the printer, sponsored by HEYGEAR. So let's go ahead and check that out. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the sponsor of today's video, HEYGEAR. I want to be honest with you guys. My one condition when it came to this printer is if I can be honest with my experience with the machine. They said yes, so therefore I'm allowed to talk smack. But in this situation, I was cleverly surprised by a couple of things they did. So the one special thing that it is about this machine is that you don't need any setting calibrations. You don't need to do any like manual calibrating because their slicer already has the settings for you. For example, you load up the program, you choose the machine that you're using. I'm using this one. You use the resin. I'm using the PAP 10. It's for like type of resin, which should be a little bit more durable and precise. You go down the survey and then you start printing. So in the slicer, it comes with the preset for the resin. It also comes with automatic model repair, which basically if your model has holes within it, it will cover that up and make it printable within the slicer. It also comes with HEYGEAR's automatic support system based on the algorithm to best support the sculpt. But I do recommend that when you go into the automatic support system, you modify the contact points of the print into smaller ones Therefore, it's not that big of a contact area for the print and doesn't leave you with the gaps of the support. Once I did that modification of the supports, man, these things came off super nice. Also, one of the things that I was reading up on this is that it has an amber screen. Basically, what the amber screen is, it's like a polarization within the LCD that basically lets more light through and doesn't encapsulate that much heat, therefore the screen lasting longer. Personally, I have issues with other printers with the actual screen, so seeing this additional feature within the printer gives me hope of having the machine for a longer time and having more durability. And as I mentioned previously, this machine, you don't need to do any additional setups. It's auto leveling, auto heating. It has a residue detection system. If you have any like residue within the vat, it will stop the machine and tell you to clean it. Also, it has an auto refilling system, but be careful because this might happen if you don't twist the knobs in the bottom of your printer. And it started spilling. So yeah, make sure it has knobs on the bottom of the printer, so make sure you use them, okay? Let me explain the bad. First, no, you cannot use your own resin. I mean, technically you can use your own resin, but it needs to be similar to the one that HEYGEAR has because they have their own preset resin. I consider this machine to be one that's meant to get to work ASAP. Like if you have an Etsy, which is pretty cool because it gives you something less to struggle about. And that I appreciate because I do run an Etsy and I do need these things to be up and printing fast, but also it doesn't make me lose time calibrating. Within this bundle they sent me a washing and curing station. I've seen videos about their washing station and I was a little bit worrisome, dude, because this thing is shaking side to side. And now I wouldn't put it on the high settings because this thing shakes, dude. It shakes. You need to have it on a solid table in order to like be shaking around. In a way, that's good because it washes it really nice. And they have like this draining system that I also do appreciate as well. Open the valve and everything drains out from the bottom to the other bucket. And then you have an empty bucket with all the prints, right? I haven't used the high settings. I know if I put something in there that's a small thin piece and I pack it up too much of prints, they're going to start scraping against one another. So I put it always on the low settings. And when it comes to the curing station too, bro, it's like, this is a really nice upgrade to the comparison what I had before. Okay, so it has mirrors all along, so the UV light is getting up, down, left, right. It also has a fan, dude. It has a freaking fan. It's like, it's really cool. I don't know, I haven't used it. I probably have to Google what I can use it for. Maybe like heat up a freaking ramen inside or a chicken. But this is a really nice curing station, dude. And all these things can be monitored directly from their slicer. Although I haven't used it personally, but they do give you recommended settings for those type of prints that you're using. You know, at the end of the day, it just saves you on time, dude. Not only can you manage the devices within the slicer, but within the slicer is the built-in support. Like, you don't need to do an external email and email them your credentials for you to know you're legit. It's all built within the slicer, so you can just click, drag and drop the files that you're having issues or the machines that you're having issues along with the pictures as well. That's pretty cool, actually. That's really nice. So my overall experience with the machine has been good. I recommend it if you plan on getting it to work. If you have an Etsy, if you want to do prints, if you want to do big stuff. And it also helps that it has a bunch of variation of resins. Here I'm using the PAP 10 and the PAW R10, which basically is a gray and a white color. Helps me paint easier because it is a gray and white canvas. And then in this Spider-Man zombie, the top is PAP 10, which is a high precision one. And then the bottom jaw, because moving it around, is made out of PAP 10, which is more of a flexible resin. If you want to get one yourself, I'll leave the link in the bio. They have a Black Friday promotion between November 13 all the way to December 3rd. So if you want to get a really good discount, I recommend you get it now. Let's get back to the video. Okay, now we have those printed. We have the heads printed. I like to post on Instagram, right? I like to send out my progress pics to the people I follow. And one of those people that I communicate with constantly is Symbiote Seeker, because he gave me the inspiration for this video, for this challenge. Okay, the absolute BANE challenge. Not just kidding. We're not in 2012. Anyway, the point is, I was sending him some pictures, right? And he's like, "Oh, mate, what?" "Oh, mate, what with the clown shoes?" And I was like, what? And he's like, "Yeah, dude, they look like clown shoes." So I was like, damn, he's right. They do look like clown shoes. And he basically gave me a breakdown of how I'm supposed to sculpt feet, well, boots in that situation. But then I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want to, I could do that, but then you got to take into account the laces and, you know, this part of the boot and all that stuff. So he gave me the alternative of using the Last Night. Is it the Last Night? I don't know. This thing. And those boots look phenomenal. He already did use them for a previous custom, which was the Juggernaut custom that he did. I'll show a picture here. Hollow out the boot, cut half of the calf, and then glue them together. And dude, it looks really nice, and that's exactly the look that I need, because this absolute BANE, he's tactical. Okay, he has a gun, he has pouches, he has tactical boots, he's militarized, you know, all that stuff. So, and plus the boots, the legs for the bath, they're like 15 bucks on eBay. So I'm like, the thing is, as of recording it right now, I don't have them with me, so I gotta focus on painting other stuff. Meanwhile, luckily, there's plenty of stuff to do still, because I haven't finished this custom. As of recording right now, this thing is not finished. So let's get back to finishing it. Okay. All right, let's get to the painting part. So this back piece, I actually made it myself. I copied it from this reference art because I didn't know where to put the tubes connected to. So I made custom fitted parts and printed it on the RS Turbo by HEYGEAR. And I used these tubes. I'll leave the link in the bio if you want to get them. And man, these head sculpts are really crisp. I did a lot of emphasis on the vein work and on the eyes and on the stitching work. You can really see it, and it helps out with the painting process because you have somewhere as a guide to paint. As well with, let's say with other printers, sometimes the smallest detail do get lost within the print quality and come out fuzzy. Not with this one, man, especially the teeth, dog. When it came to the teeth, I actually sculpted in like grooves so I could show like wear and tear within the dentures, and that came out within the print, and I was pretty surprised because it just made it easier for me to give it a little bit more detail within the teeth. And teeth are itself difficult to paint, so it just made it easier for me because I can just pour in a watered down red and that fills in the whole mouth area. Always recommend to water down the white, just so you can slightly just touch up the teeth in contrast to the red, and then that way you can actually control a little bit better when it comes to the consistency of the white color. And if you want to see the detail for yourself, the prints will be available on my Etsy. Yeah, just in general, dude, these heads are fun to paint. Pretty simple to paint, you know, just following the guidelines of the sculpt. Now, if you're watching closely, you might have noticed I made two head sculpts, base form and monster form. But why would I make a base form if I don't have a base figure? Well, that's where you're wrong. Not only will I be making the monster version, but as a surprise extra bonus custom, I'll make you the base version. Let me show you that. Now, it's not 100% accurate because it's supposed to be, all this needs to be uncovered, but for the looks of it, it looks really nice. And this belt is also going to be scaled up for the monster hide figure. So this guy looks pretty cool, and it's a pretty simple custom. I finally got the boots. Let's finish this custom. Okay, here we have the boots, and the idea is cut this top off, drill this, all this section out, cut all this, leave it empty, then splice the whole thigh and just clamp it on top. Okay, because we gotta get rid of this freaking clown shoes. Ay, way. I'm gonna need more heat. Don't you tell me to stop. Okay, so look, we already have it hollowed out. Unfortunately, I maybe digged out a little bit too deep. That's barely the top half of the joint, but that's okay. We can still work with it. And then here, I chopped it off right at the edge. So right there where you see the hinge, just cut it flat, boom, okay. Now we have this, we cut it with the Dremel. Now we can do this. Shee, that's gonna look really good. We can just crazy glue it in, and we should be good to go. Now that we have the boots figured out, I'm going to show you the end result of absolute BANE. Let's go ahead and do a couple size comparisons next to the absolute BANE. Here it is scaled with BANE, my Mayfix custom BANE. But yeah guys, in general, thank you for watching. This has been probably the most fun custom I've done so far, just because the elaboration it came to there's a lot of methods going into this one, and it was just fun, dude, honestly. Thanks again to HEYGEAR for sponsoring the printer and making this video happen. Also, I want to thank you guys for, I think we should be at 30K right now. If not, still thank you for the help, for the subscribers, for commenting, all that stuff. The salute emoji, you already know what's up. If you want these hats, as you know, they're going to be available on my Etsy, but I want to give you a sneak peek because we are going to be doing a 30K giveaway on the next video, so stay tuned for that. And I'll be soon having my Patreon. So I already have it, I just haven't promoted it, but I'll leave the link in the bio. But in the Patreon, the plan is to start releasing these files, and then after a couple months, then I'll go ahead and post them in the Colts 3D at a higher price, unfortunately. I think right now my highest tier in Patreon is like $5. So if you want to help out, support what I do, I'll greatly appreciate it. But yeah, man, yeah, this video took me a minute. I think it was like 3 weeks to make this custom while I waited for parts and just kit bash the whole thing and drawing prepped it and all that stuff. It was a pretty intensive project. Pretty fun though, as I mentioned, one of the funnest. And let me know if you guys like this more complicated kit bashes customs, or the more simpler custom kit bashes, you know, like the belt and the head. But no, I really do appreciate your support. Appreciate all the attention, and thank you, man. Bye.